Inspired Caregivers.
We made it!
We made it, yes! Woo! It has been a journey. I know that we have both felt this really being called to sharing our experiences, and our experiences have been quite different. I know for me, my journey really was about bringing us together. You know, I didn't know I would be in the position of being a caregiver, and yet it brought my family a lot closer. My mom was 49 and my dad was 55 when they both needed my care. And at that time, I was dealing with a young son, the job, you know, my business, my husband, and really trying to balance it all. So keeping it all together was a challenge for me, and I had no idea. I was really blindsided by it. And I think through that experience, actually, it helped me because I didn't know 2 years later, less than 2 years later, that I would be caretaking for my dad.
Oh, geez.
Which was a different experience because I felt at that time I had the team and I had the tools and something that actually created a loving and a very memorable end to what I didn't know, but was a very special time before he actually died.
Now that is completely different than my story.
Oh yes.
It was just so funny. We're like the yin and yang.
Yes.
It's the yin and yang. I think it's a beautiful thing when we care for someone. And I took my loved one that I've known for over 30 years, and it was always assumed that I would be the one caring for her. And I took her in my home after she had had a stroke. And we got her body, you know, the doctors and so many people said that she would never walk again, and we got her walking and we worked together and it was wonderful, and life played a cruel trick and she developed dementia. And it was almost like she left her body and this evil spirit jumped in her body just to cause mischief. Who is this person in my home? You know, and what did they do with Rose? It was absolutely horrible. But the good thing is surviving it.
Yes.
And sometimes when you have so much ugliness coming from someone you love, it's tough to survive, I think, without getting sick yourself or going there emotionally with your thoughts. My thoughts crept to dark places.
You
and
weren't
they've
alone.
never been there before. And I have to know that's not her. It's a disease.
Right.
And it's a terrible disease. And there's so many caregivers. Somebody right now is dealing with that.
Yes, absolutely.
And they don't know what to do, where to go, how to deal with these emotions.
Although our journeys were quite different, we found that we had many of the same tools that really did help get us through, because little did I know after my mom and dealing with her illness that I would actually have my father who I had to care for. And at that time, besides taking care of the family, my kid, my husband, a business, I also was pregnant. So something that was big for me was self-care, and I realized self-care and boundaries was huge. I needed those to take care of myself, and that's something that I didn't have with my mom.
Wow, and you know what's interesting with that is I was raised in a family where the phrase was love one another. So we were raised with the phrase love one another. And what I had to learn, the same thing as you, is I'm included in the love one another. We're included in the love one another. So we have to have those boundaries.
Yes.
Because the boundaries are what's going to keep us healthy and alive and keep them healthier too.
Yes, and self-care, it's really giving ourselves permission to do the things that really help us care for our loved ones even better, and to not lose ourselves in the midst of that.
And did you feel like you needed permission to take care of yourself?
Absolutely. There was this part of me that it was a little bit of guilt, I have to say, that I felt as though I need to give all, and if I'm not giving enough, they've done so much for me, and yet I realized that in order to take care of them, I needed to take care of me first. And I didn't have that tool. I really had to really learn that.
And that's what we're doing with this book.
Yes.
And we're giving others permission to take care of themselves. I've spoken to thousands of caregivers all over the world. And I'd say 99.9% of the time, they're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking the time out. And they're already in overwhelm, or they're on their way to overwhelm.
Yes, I was really amazed at how many caregivers actually end up being sick themselves.
Absolutely. So many caregivers, and that was my case. I started to get sick.
Yes.
And caring for Rose, who had dementia, she would sometimes she'd be mad at me for no reason. She would give me the silent treatment, she would glare at me sometimes, and it would literally, her glares would lead me right to the restroom getting sick, or running into my bed and curling up in a ball because I'm nauseous. And it was absolutely terrible. And at that moment, I knew this is going to cause some kind of serious illness. And I had to do something. Self-care was right up at the top.
Yeah, self-care is just, it's huge, it's key, it's essential. It's like, how can we really take care of our loved ones when we're not taking care of ourselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we actually got together and found tips that we both were doing.
Yes.
It's like I was doing that too.
Little did we know, I think that was one of the gifts of sharing our stories, was finding out that there were a lot of common threads that we had and tools that we both used just from coming through the experiences that we had.
And we were determined we're
Yes.
going to get through this.
Yes.
We're going to get through this and do it the best we can, and from the state of love and
Yes.
compassion.
Yes.
I was not going to turn on Rose. I was not going to treat her like she was treating me. I needed to find that place. And to do that, we have to have self-care. We must practice it every day, every moment.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I did, which I believe is life-saving, is every time I took Rose, I would stop by Jamba Juice after. She'd be in the car, I'd park right in front, and I'd go in and I'd get a big Jamba Juice with antioxidants and all the good works in there, and then I'd also have wheatgrass. And I knew I had to fill my body with nutrients to withstand the abuse, because it was pure toxic, emotional toxins in my home. And I think that's very important. A lot of us don't get the nutrition that we need. If we're caregiving, that's extremely stressful. We need extra nutrients.
Yes.
So we need to have maybe somebody on the medical team, nutritionist, someone helping us through this caregiving journey.
Absolutely. And I think something for me, which ended up being kind of a supplement in, a mental supplement and positive, was affirmations. Affirmations and journaling, and really putting myself in a space where I felt very positive and could keep my spirits up, because really at the center of my household, people were sourcing me, my kids, my husband, I had a business, and my father. They all needed that encouragement, and so I didn't have it to give when I wasn't in a space where I felt good. So for me, keeping those positive thoughts, where I kind of considered it my vitamin, my mental vitamin, and that was a big help for me.
Yeah, exactly, and I love that. In our book, we have the Caregiver Pledge.
Yes.
And that's something you read every single day, and you're making a vow to yourself to be the best caregiver and best person, and to make sure that you're doing self-care every single moment.
Yes.
So that's a great chapter, one of my favorite chapters in the book.
It is. I think in one of mine too. It's hard to pick just one because there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of good information that we share, and I think the big thing for me is that I really like the idea of being able to, not every one of us is going to be able to be the caregiver. And we all have people in our lives who we appreciate, and we know they're doing the tough work of taking care of others. So this book actually provides, it's kind of a gift of love to someone who is caregiving, and just saying, I acknowledge you, I appreciate you, and here I'm offering you a tool that might be useful in your caregiving experience. So I really appreciate that. A part of why, I felt so committed to this work, and I know that you are, we both feel the same way, is that we want this to actually be a resource and to help heal and to help you really be inspired and really take your caregiving from a space of being an obligation sometimes, which we understand because it's a lot for you to handle and to bear, to being really how can I use this as a way to be inspired in my life, be inspired as a person, and actually show this person I'm caring for love when sometimes it just isn't easy.
And I think another thing is what we talk about, some taboo subject, is wellness coaches.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to go to a wellness coach. What is a wellness coach? Counselor, therapist, clinical psychologist, they are meant for you to obtain clarity. Now in my case, they were fantastic with me, dealing with Rose, very life-saving, I would say, my life-saving. They help give you clarity, and also the work is now progressive. It's very progressive work. It's not the way it used to be. Now they're like a team.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you say they're like a team now?
Absolutely. We need those resources. And I think, we think about a wellness coach. And what is a coach? We go to someone who, when we need support in an area that we don't have the same expertise that someone else might, we'll go and have a fitness coach, for playing tennis or golf.
Financial coach.
Yeah, financial coach. And then yet, when it comes to our own mental well-being, this is just another person on our team that's there to help us. So I think that, I love that chapter also. And again, it goes back to just giving ourselves permission to have that support, to put that in place. And really, it's your team. So we need coaches on our team, don't we?
We need coaches on our team, becoming a team with the medical professionals.
Yes.
And other caregivers, caregiving support groups, all of it.
Oh yeah, the team is essential, and choices, choices that we make. And I think sometimes choices that we can default to when we don't know better. And that whole thought of when we know better, we do better. So we're hoping that this, the Inspired Caregiver, is a resource so that we'll know, because I know the first time when I was taking care of my mother and I didn't have the same tools and same experience I had with my father, and it created a whole different experience for me. And even in caregivers that I've spoken to, finding that oftentimes it's not that we don't want to, but we don't know what to do because we're in overwhelm.
Absolutely. And overwhelm is caregiver burnout.
Right. Right. Well, I think the person we're often hardest on, I know I had, was myself. Having that, a little bit of guilt. I talked about that. And for me, it really was that permission and not going into overwhelm, because then I had the tools that really kept me balanced, because balance is really, it's essential.
And we talk about that too. What happens when you do everything, but you're still slipping into overwhelm, when you're still in overwhelm? And then we talk about what to do during that time.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe the journey is over for you being the caregiver.
Right.
And that decision just might save your life.
Yes.
So it is funny about caregiving. It is our love that assigns us to this job most of the time, but we don't realize how dangerous it is.
Oh, it can be very dangerous.
It's very dangerous to our health, mentally, physically, spiritually, and maybe emotionally for sure.
Right.
So this is something we truly need to be like an athlete.
Yes.
On nutrition or sleep.
Oh yeah. No, I really love the fact that you mentioned sometimes it's too much. And I think that's the other area of permission, is knowing that sometimes it's not for us to take care of a loved one. As much as we love them, we need to actually pass the torch and let someone else do it and give that to a professional, because we just can't do it.
Exactly.
And having said that, I know that it's one of the most difficult things that has to be done. Sometimes actually passing that torch, and I know that was something that you had to do.
I had to do it. It was either Rose or me.
Yes.
My house turned into a war zone. I was the one being attacked. I was completely attacked. You are not a queen. Do I sit here all day? Aren't you going to take me out? And I just took her out. And she can't remember. God bless her. So it was just absolutely horrible. I ran you over. It was just abuse. And it was enough. I had had enough. So I ended up getting together with my team, and that's our medical team, the wellness coaches, and we put together a plan, and we literally had to give her a certain medication so that I can get her into the assisted living facility. And it actually took 2 times for us to get her in there. And even after she was in there with dementia, if anyone understands, this can be very difficult. Even afterwards, she was calling me, she was trying to walk out of the villa, there were all sorts of problems. So it doesn't, and then you're still paying bills, so you're still in overwhelm, you're still doing all this work. And however, at least she's not in the home, causing havoc.
Right.
So, and that, you come to a point, I love you, but I got to love me more.
This was a book that really wanted to be written.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It really wanted to be written. What had happened, and it's funny because I would never have thought that we would write a caregiving.
I know.
Ever.
That was not in the plan.
Exactly. But after speaking to thousands of caregivers all over the world, something said to me, write a book for them. Write a book. And I said, okay. I just felt this calling, this strong calling. And what ended up happening is a year went by and I didn't write the book yet. I dabbled and wrote a chapter here and there after talking to so many people. And then I found my friend over 30 years on the floor after 4 days and 3 nights, and I ended up caring for her. And it was almost like the divine saying to me, I told you to write a book, now you're going to feel the blood, sweat, and tears of every caregiver, most caregivers. And I felt it so much, and then I felt this feeling so strong with the book. Call Tia, have her included in this book, have her write this book with you. And it was so strong, and Tia's doing so many different wonderful, wonderful things. It was like, oh, calling you, but it was like, Tia, I feel you have to be the one. I am being told that. And with this book, in our two years in the making, what an incredible journey we have been through.
Oh, it has been
amazing. My goodness.
And I have no logical reason why I said yes. There was a million things going on, and yet I said yes.
Absolutely.
It really felt like something that needed to be shared. And I think ultimately I really knew it was a kind of an honoring of what I went through with both my parents, and the fact that I knew this would actually help so many people. It was a yes for me.
And it will. And this is the book I wish I had when I was caring for others.
Absolutely.
My journey would have been much easier.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was written from that point of view of really knowing that we've been there, we understand, we care, and that's why we're sharing some tools that we've gained from our experience, and are hoping that this will too help you in your journey.